The story kicks off at Jiangnan University, with someone yelling Lu Donglei's name on repeat. Then, the professor demands the kid wake up right this second to solve the question on the board. Right then, the guy's eyes snap wide open in a panic, totally lost about where the heck he is. Because of this, the students whisper to each other that he's a total blockhead with zero hope. Sitting there totally dazed at his desk, he asks himself how he's still kicking. Telling the class to pipe down, the professor feels sorry that the famous Lu family has such a clueless heir. The students keep gossiping that, despite his dad's massive clout, the kid became the campus laughingstock. Hearing all that chatter, he realizes his soul has responded into the body of young Lu Donglei. Back in the day, he was known as Yi Tianji, a massive big shot in the cultivation universe. After grinding for over 5,000 years, he was just one step away from ascending to the heavens. But, his run ended in a super tragic way thanks to a stab in the back from a super close ally. The one who did the deed was Schwankper, the Soul Emperor's here, someone he legit saw as family. Playing on his need for love and family, she totally cheap, shot at him from behind. Boiling with rage, the master made sure no backstabber would walk away, even if it cost him his own existence. So, he went out with a bang, taking the traitor and all the demon lords present down with him. Since he scored a second chance at existing, he decides to use this new body to get his payback. Scanning the situation, he realizes the OG Lu Donglei wasn't actually born with rocks in his head. Somebody planted a toxic needle in the kid's brain to slowly mess up his nerves. From this, he figures out that such a precise and messed up procedure could only be pulled off by a pro. This gadget is what ended the run of the former host before he swooped in, and now he needs to yank it out ASAP. Knowing he always pays his debts, the master swears to avenge the kid, and teach the person responsible a lesson they won't forget. Right then, the professor yells, super mad, asking what on earth he's doing and telling him to sit down immediately. Finding the whole thing hilarious, he thinks it's wild that a basic teacher is trying to boss him around. He thinks back to his boss days, when thousands of disciples would shake in their boots, just being near him. Totally ignoring the professor, he just dips out of the classroom while the guy fumes with anger. Walking with purpose, he decides that from today on, the Yechi Tianji persona is cancelled. Strolling through the campus grounds, he starts to chill out and map out his next moves. Looking at modern society, he notices it's totally possible to live your best life even without cultivation. The biggest roadblock, though, is the lack of spiritual energy needed to get his powers back online. Sitting down to vibe, check the area, he realizes the spiritual energy on planet Earth is super scarce. Because of that, he decides his main quest is to extract that poison needle stuck in his brain. He heads straight for the college boys' dorm looking for absolute privacy. Stepping into the empty room, he locks the door to make absolutely sure nobody crashes his party. Since his roommates are stuck in class, he knows he's got the perfect window of time. Checking the clock, he guesses he has a little over 60 minutes until the school day wraps up. He decides to sit on the floor so the bed doesn't collapse under the sheer force of what he's about to pull off. He gets that the attacker used a super sneaky method so the needle wouldn't show up on medical scans. But for a former sect leader of his tier, pulling the object out is a total piece of cake. Flexing his power, bluish spiritual flames start glowing all around the kid's body. Guided by his energy control, the needle, then as a silk thread, starts wiggling its way out of his brain. Feeling the sting, he promises to end the person who dared to use such a twisted method on a kid. That piece of metal had been stuck in there forever, demanding a ton of his current energy to finally budge. The blue aura flares up hard around him right as the extraction hits its peak. The force blasting into the room puts some heavy cracks in the walls and completely busts the dorm clock. Letting out a tired sigh after popping the needle out, he realizes just how wrecked this body has been over the years. Totally drained from the physical toll, he completely passes out on the dorm floor right after. A little while later, our 2MC wakes up cozy in a hospital bed. Right then, he notices someone sleeping next to him and feels how weak his body still is. The girl resting there starts to wake up slowly when she notices him shifting in the bed. Looking at him with totally loving eyes, she wipes away the worried tears streaming down her face. Hyped to see him awake, she celebrates with major relief that her brother is finally back in action. Right after, she dashes down the hallway, frantically calling for the doctor in charge. The doc checks the kid out and says he's in good shape, just dealing with some mild mental burnout. The girl asks, super stressed, if they shouldn't run more tests, but the pro promises there's no need. Thrilled with the doc's thumbs up, she breaks out a glowing smile, realizing the scary part is over. He's low, key touch to be on the receiving end of such a loving look after thousands of years. Digging through Lu Donlei's memories, he remembers that Yi King, his adopted sister, always had his back. On the flip side, his biological parents tossed him to the curb without a second thought when they found out about his health issues. Finding it pretty cool that she shares the Yi last name, he instantly feels a bond with her. Watching the girl thank the doc, he swears he'll keep her safe from any drama from this moment forward. Next thing, the girl rushes over and gives him a huge bear hug on the bed, crying tears of relief that he's okay. He gives her a gentle pat on the face, and tells her to turn off the waterworks, so she doesn't look silly. His sister pulls back a little confused, thinking he's acting way different than his usual self. She notices the guy's eyes are practically glowing and full of life like never before. Seeing this, she straight up asks if he's finally left his clueless days behind. Playing it cool, the guy promises that from now on, her brother is a total mastermind. Brainstorming his next moves, he decides to go after everyone who tried to do them dirty. With a totally locked-in look, he promises that none of the bad guys are getting off the hook. The next day, classes go on as usual on the Shangjian University campus. In the packed cafeteria, the students stare in absolute shock at the mountain of food piled on his table. He chows down fast and furious, completely ignoring the weirded outlooks from the people nearby. Even though his sister told him to chill at home, he knows he needs to make moves quickly. The students whisper that the campus goofball must have woken up with a monster appetite. Finishing his plate, he gets that he needs to get his energy back to fight whatever hidden enemy is out there. A bit later, outside the library, he gets himself sorted to start checking off his to-do list. He heads into the library aiming to do some digging and figure out the modern world he's living in now. Book in hand, he notices the spiritual vibe in the room is way too weak to level up normally. Right then, students nearby start making jokes, claiming he's just faking reading to flex for someone. Tuning out the haters, he hatches a plan to use Bae de sick medicinal plants to copy the alchemy tricks from his past life. Spotting a picture of a root in the book, he decides to hunt for everyday veggies that have the same vibes. A while later, back at the dorms, it gets dark and the clock hits past 1 in the morning. Chilling in the lotus position on the balcony, he starts channeling his spiritual energy under the moonlight. But he realizes his body's energy highways are totally jammed up with gunk. Without a second thought, he decides to blast all his stored power at once to flush those pathways clean. Locking in, a bright glow flashes in his eyes while he pulls off the move. Thanks to that, he hits the first tear of energy condensation, blowing past normal human senses. From here on out, the breeze and any sound within a 100-meter radius are completely under his radar. However, one of his roommates wakes up, wanders to the balcony, and is totally confused by the scene. The guy gets pretty spooked and asks why he's out there at witching hour instead of catching ZS. Then, the roommate tells him to hit the sack soon, pointing out they both have morning classes. Nodding calmly, Lu Donlei asks himself if the sound of his spiritual level up was too loud. The roommate stares at him, noticing a low-key glow up in the guy. The TNMC is worried that showing off his upgrade now might grab the attention of the haters still lurking around the school. But the roommate just cracks a joke about his fresh haircut, saying it looks good. Feeling super relieved, he realizes the dude only noticed the trim his sister gave him and laughs at his own paranoia. The TNMC jokes back, saying he's definitely looking sharper, but tells his buddy to head inside before he catches a cold. Heading back inside, he knows for a fact he needs to hit his max power again to be able to protect his family. Even knowing the grind will be lonely and sketchy, he swears to stay relentless with his spiritual glow up. The next morning, the sun is shining bright over the girls' dorm. King stares at her phone screen, super hyped and proud to see her brother solving crazy math problems like it's nothing. Suddenly, a roommate bursts in and teases her, asking if that big smile is because of a boyfriend. Shutting that down fast, she excitedly spills the tea that her brother finally got his senses back. The friend is shook, since she knew the guy's track record and didn't expect him to bounce back so fast. Annoyed by the mean rumors, the girl defends her bro, swearing he's got insane talent and everyone will be looking up to him soon. Right then, the friend shoves her own phone in her face, telling her she urgently needs to see something. She plays a video online where the guy is getting clowned for shadowboxing in the campus courtyard. Freaking out over the clip, King sprints outside to see what kind of mess is going down. At that exact moment, on the sports court, Lu Donlei is in the zone, throwing precise punches at the air. Nearby, a bunch of college kids are gossiping and pointing, thinking his fighting moves are a total joke. Focused on his routine, he knows that even though he's squishy compared to his past life, his current power is enough to fold any normal dude. All of a sudden, a beefy guy walks up looking for trouble and blocks his path. Unbothered, Lu Donglai just casually asks if he's in the guy's way. The challenger leans in and glares at him with a total "What are you gonna do about it?" vibe. They're facing off in the middle of the court, pulling everyone's attention. Cold as ice, he asks who the guy is and what his deal is. The troublemaker gets sarcastic, saying his new look definitely doesn't match the loser everyone used to roast. Ignoring the cheap shot, the DM seeker just finds the whole thing incredibly boring and exhausting. The bully introduces himself as AV Lin Kun and demands he stay away from Yekking from this second on. He keeps trashing him, saying a zero like him would only embarrass the girl. The MMC finds it pretty funny and ironic to see a basic mortal trying to talk down to the former boss of the universe's strongest faction. Keeping his cool, Lu Donglai points out that his sister's love life is her own business and tells the guy to get lost. The challenger loses it, thinking the guy is just backing out of protecting her. But the master snaps back, saying that as her brother, he'd only give his blessing to someone who actually deserves respect. That comment makes Lin Kun completely snap because his ego just took a direct hit. In his head, Lu Donglai thinks this clown wouldn't even be fit to mop the floors of his old sect. Going for the cheap shot, the bully tries to deck him with a surprise punch mid-sentence. The EMC just rolls his eyes at how pathetic it is to throw a sucker punch. He remembers the days when literal kings would drop to their knees and bow to him. Without breaking a sweat, he catches the guy's punch mid-air, amazed by the sheer audacity of a regular human trying to lay a hand on him. The bully's eyes go wide, completely unable to process how his attack got stopped with zero effort. Shutting down any chance of retreat, the EMC crushes the guy's hand with a vice grip. Then, he busts out a martial arts move and lands a clean strike right on the guy. The impact sends the bully flying to the ground, screaming his lungs out while clutching his wrecked arm. The crowd of students is horrified watching the school's toughest guy get absolutely humbled that fast. Walking away unbothered, the master shakes his head at how dumb regular folks are for messing with a cultivator. He knows the cultivation grind is a marathon, but his current level is plenty to deal with average humans. Meanwhile, a few students help Lin Kun peel himself off the floor. Trying to save face, the bully lies and says they were just doing some light sparing, adding he's gonna hit the clinic. But one dark look from the Dowsum EMC sends him into a panic, shutting him up completely. Terrified, he wonders how a random student could give off such scary boss energy. Shaking like a leaf, the bully asks for permission to leave, while everyone else just stares in disbelief. Stopping in his tracks, the EMC realizes this guy was sent by a third party just to rough him up. He demands the name of the real puppet master pulling the strings. Backed into a corner, Lin Kun admits he was hyped up by a guy named Dozen Lin Na Zong, who fed him pictures of the siblings. Standing on business, the key MC decides to hunt down the culprit to settle the score, but a familiar shout interrupts him. Yi King comes sprinting onto the court, looking like she's having a meltdown over his safety. Running up to him, she grabs his shoulders and frantically checks for any scratches. Giving her a head pat, he promises he's totally fine and jokes that she's up way too early, but her face drops when she locks eyes with the bully lying on the ground. Going off, she absolutely unleashes on Lin Kun, making it crystal clear she never liked him. Pointing right at him, Yi King warns that if he ever tries to start drama with her brother again, she'll make him regret it. Hearing that, Lin Kun limps away mumbling that he'd be thrilled if the theorist MC'd you wasn't the one bringing the drama. Right then, Yi King introduces Guru, her bestie, who shyly waves at the guy while he checks her out curiously. He spots that the girl has a rare body condition with blocked energy paths, meaning her clock is ticking fast. Noticing him zone out, his sister asks what's wrong, but he switches topics, thinking it's better not to get mixed up with her friend. The MMC mentioned plans to quickly track down the mastermind to see if this ties back to the lethal needle incident. He asks where the economics building is, and Guru points to a red brick spot, a little confused by the question. Heading toward the building, the Dutch MMC says he's just going to take a quick peek to flush out all his hidden haters. Watching him walk away, Yi King gets the vibe that her brother really has leveled up and seems like a whole new person. The camera pans to the economics department, where classes go down in a huge red brick building. Inside, students are gossiping in shock about how the campus tough guy got packed up and sent to the clinic act after getting totally embarrassed. Right then, so Lin Nanhong, the heir to the powerhouse Lin family, agrees that their ops are using the kid for some shabby plot. Boiling with low-key rage, the guy slams his fist into his desk, cracking the wood from the sheer force. Standing up fuming, he swears the situation doesn't matter, and that he'll personally take out this pawn. Chilling at the entrance, the master decides this is the perfect time to flex his real power for everyone to see. Stepping into the room with heavy main character energy, he formally introduces himself as Lu Donglai and announces he's a student there too. Staring down the class, the guy drops a cold line, saying any enemy sent his way is just a bug waiting to get squashed. He walks in with his hands in his pockets looking super menacing, completely killing the classroom vibes. Because of this, the professor angrily adjusts his glasses and tells the kid to get out immediately since the lecture is starting. Paying zero attention to the teacher, the master flexes his heavy aura and loudly asks who in the room goes by Lin Nanhong. At that moment, the college girls are whispering about how good-looking he is until one realizes he's the guy everyone calls the campus dummy. Glaring at the crasher, Lin Nanhong finds it insane that the guy actually had the guts to show his face there. Right away, 3 goons stand up, cracking their knuckles to scare the intruder and show they're ready to throw down. One of the lackeys barks aggressively that the kid isn't high enough level to fight the boss and dares him to get past them first. Totally unbothered, he easily dodges the first swing, thinking regular human speed is just too laggy. Wasting zero time, the Taimiamsa throws a lightning-fast, pinpoint punch straight into the first guy's face. The impact sends the attacker flying to the floor groaning in pain, while the master doesn't even break a sweat. Keeping his voice chill but scary, the guy warns everyone in the room he's only asking one time. He demands to know right now which one is Lin Nanhong, telling the dude to step up already. The students totally panic seeing a guy get folded that fast, wondering if this is actually the campus joke they knew. A few witnesses whisper that Lin Nanhong comes from a military family and has crazy combat stats, way above average. At that, the military here steps up acting all tough and admits the whole school had completely slept on the Taimiamsa's power until now. He takes off his jacket to flex his muscles and officially drops his name as Lin Nanhong, radiating some intense boss fight energy. The crowd sees his crazy build and figures the MC just signed his own game over screen by making him mad. The professor frantically tries to step in, demanding to know what the heck these two think they're doing in his classroom, oozing confidence. Lin Nanhong tells the teacher to chill and promises to wrap this up real quick. Looking at his opponent, the fighter asks if he'd rather catch these hands in the courtyard or somewhere more low key. But the master shoots the offer down, saying there's no need to leave since the classroom has plenty of space. Dripping with sarcasm, he tells his rival to just spit out who ordered the hit, so he might go a little easier on the beatdown. The military guy bursts into a villain laugh at the sheer audacity and promises to show the kid there are people you just don't mess with. Kicking off the fight, the brawler throws a brutal punch at the MCs who just shakes his head at the enemy's stubbornness. He literally just tracks the incoming hit, judging that it's all muscle and zero actual skill. With absolute ease, the Sir MC raises his arm and catches the attacker's fist mid-air like it's nothing. The rival's eyes practically pop out of his head, totally unable to process how his ultimate attack got blocked by a guy who didn't even move an inch. Frantically trying to pull back, the military guy realizes the kid's grip is like a steel trap he can't break out of. Taking advantage of the guy's wide-open stance, the master delivers a kick so fast it makes the air whip. Thanks to the crazy force of the hit, the young soldier gets launched backward without a single second to block. He ends up crashing hard into the desks and chairs at the back of the room, turning everything to splinters with his heavy fall. The college kids scream in terror watching the scariest fighter on campus get totally clowned and sent flying with one hit. The teacher points a shaking finger at the Dar MC toes, yelling that he's snitching to the dean about this cheap shot right now. While the rest of the students are terrified of the Lin family's revenge, the Dem MC Chias just stands there looking completely chill and majestic. The kids keep whispering that the guy just ruined his own life, since even the school board is scared of the loser's family. Laying in the rubble, the defeated fighter struggles to get up while the master walks over with zero chill. Crouching next to the wrecked opponent, the guy says out loud that the person who ordered the hit is definitely from the Lin family. Shaking with fear at the MC's cold stare, the young guy chokes out a question asking what he's planning to do next. Dead serious, the master warns that if he ever wants a rematch, he needs to come at him directly and leave his family out of it. Without hesitating, he grabs both of the guy's arms at once and uses insane strength to dislocate them in a split second. The military kid lets out an agonizing scream that echoes through the room while collapsing helplessly on the floor. Looking down at his rival in pain, the MC asks casually if, after losing his two arms, he's finally ready to take the Eld, bawling his eyes out. The guy admits he got totally owned, begs for mercy, and promises to never go near the Lu family again. Harshly correcting the guy's mistake, the master reminds him his real family name is E, making the dude red to his promise. Happy with that answer, the guy stands up, thinking that if he didn't have this kind of power, his beloved sister would still be getting harassed. With that handled, he calmly strolls toward the door, leaving his wrecked attacker on the floor while the whole class watches in shock. Stopping at the door for a second, the GMMC shoots one last silent look that makes every student shiver in absolute fear of his power. Furious at his useless crew, the injured guy screams at them to stop staring and rush into the hospital ASAP. The teacher yells angrily, swearing the attacker will face serious consequences for putting a classmate in the hospital during a lecture. Right then, a student blurts out that the crasher is actually the infamous campus dummy, leaving the professor completely baffled. The teacher fixes his glasses, wondering how a kid known for being clueless could act with so much swagger and power. A bit later, the scene jumps to a totally different classroom on the other side of campus. One of Chi-Ching's friends rushes in and tells her to check the school's social feed, hyping up her brother's crazy stunt. Grabbing her phone to check the timeline, the girl watches the fight footage and reads all the comments hyping up his skills. So proud of her big brother, she totally fangirls, seeing that he really did level up into an absolute beast. But her friend stresses her out, warning her about the defeated guy's military family and saying this win is going to bring massive drama. Realizing things just got real, the girl decides to frantically text the MC to warn him about the incoming danger. Meanwhile, the guy is just taking a chill walk across campus, totally ignoring the official penalty notices pinned to the boards. The guy picks up the phone wondering what a school penalty has to do with him and asks who's calling. On the other end, Chi-Ching is screaming his name, making him ask her to lower her volume. Rushed and caddicked, Chi-Ching warns that the guy he beat up is from a major military family that will 100% want payback. Totally unbothered, the Chi-MMC claims he's waded through oceans of drama in his past life and isn't scared of some weak human influence. Terrified, his sister begs him not to drop out, but he lets her know he's already out the gate, making her sprint after him. Hanging up, Lu Donglai walks with purpose, enjoying the breeze and completely focused on grinding his power level even higher. At the clinic, the injured fighter's mom goes absolutely ballistic, seeing the wrecked state her precious Heir is in. Right then, the lady screams out of control, blaming Lu Donglai for going too far and asking if the kid lost his mind. Boiling with pure rage, the guy tells his mom to keep this from his dad so he can personally finish the MCs off. The injured kid's uncle shows up furious that some outcast from the Lu family had the nerve to lay a finger on his nephew. Grinding his teeth, the fighter swears revenge so he doesn't completely lose his street cred at school. Meanwhile, the master looks at his own hand, knowing that even against basic mortals, he can't slack off. He clenches his fist hard, deciding his main goal is to quickly heal this body since it's still way too fragile for his big plans. Standing on the sidewalk, the MC confidently hails a cab to move on to the next phase. Hopping in, he tells the driver to step on it and take him to the nearest traditional herb shop. On the way, he plans to boost his physical stats even more as soon as he cooks up his pills. Shortly after, the car pulls up to a local spot famous for old-school natural remedies. At the counter, the HMC doesn't list off a bunch of rare plants, leaving the worker super confused since he doesn't have a prescription. Not wanting to waste breath explaining, he just commands the worker to bag up everything he asked for ASAP. Walking back through the streets, he groans about blowing all his savings just to buy those herbs. Deep in thought, the guy realizes he needs a quiet spot to craft the pills, but he's completely broke. Just then, two girls come running down the street in a panic when they spot him taking a chill walk on the sidewalk. Surprised to run into Yahello there, he listens to the girl ask if he totally robbed the store because of his massive shopping bag. Figuring it's meant to be, he uses the chance to ask the girl for an emergency loan. The two girls freeze up, completely thrown off by the guy asking for cash out of nowhere. The HMC keeps it real and explains he needs to rent a spot to work with the stuff he just bought. Digging through her bag, his sister mentions she has a little over $1,000 saved up, which he knows isn't gonna cut it. In her head, the girl figures the herbs must be super important for her brother's mental recovery. Right then, her friend Guru steps up shyly and hands over her own debit card, which has over $4,000 on it. Handing the card over on the down low, the girl whispers the PN and asks him not to stress his sister out. Checking the girl out, the master notices she has a rare health issue that's going to cap her lifespan at just 22 years. Super thankful, he swears to pay back every cent in a few weeks. While she insists, he shouldn't stress about it. The friend keeps wondering why she feels so much trust in the crazy boss energy the guy gives off. Walking alone, the MMC2 knows that cash represents the life savings of this super modest girl. He figures he owes her big time and that karma will make sure everything works out. Thinking about the girl's serious condition, he knows any normal person would have given up on saving her from fading away. Stepping up to the plate, the former Supreme Cultivator promises to use his skills to prevent her time from running out early, right after he tracks down a rundown sketchy apartment building on the outskirts of town. Talking to the landlord, he locks in the rent at $600 and drops $1,800 to move in right away. Stepping into the basic room, he knows he's got to focus on his spiritual grind to secure the bag quickly. Even though the place is basically a dump, the master admits the total isolation is perfect for what he needs to do. Right then, he sets a pot of water to boil on a portable stove in the middle of the room. Locked in on his alchemy, he remembers the 3 golden rules to make sure the refining process is absolutely flawless. He gets that the quality of each plant and the exact heat are clutch for unlocking their healing buffs. Raising his right hand, the MC makes the ingredients float in the air, wrapped in a soft blue glow. The master splits the ingredients into 3 parts, making sure each one gets the right heat before mixing them all together. He's low-key bummed that the lack of magical power on Earth nerfs the medicine, but stays locked in on the task. Flexing all his ancient knowledge, he works the flames like a pro to finish the first batch of meds super fast. But a loud crash from the apartment door totally kills the chill vibe of his ritual. Hearing the heavy hit on the door, the guy instantly knows these random intruders are only here with shady goals. With a massive kick, the wooden door gets blasted open by goons rushing the place like animals. 3 armed guys bust into the room, totally roasting the dump of an apartment the guy picked as a hutty out. Right then, the head honcho points at the Yajim MC, bragging they found the exact guy they were hunting in the city. One of the masked lackeys raises an iron pipe, ready to swing without even trying to talk it out. Keeping his cool, Lu Donglai just complains that these thugs ruined the most delicate part of his medicine prep. He warns them he's not about to waste his precious time on basic criminals and squares up for an instant brawl. Without blinking, the CMMC dashes forward at crazy speed and throws a devastating punch straight into the enemy's face. Riding the momentum, he pulls off a spinning martial arts move, blasting a wave of air that knocks the enemy's back. Thanks to the raw power of the combo, the attacker lets out a yell of pain while getting launched across the room. The goon's body slams hard onto the concrete floor, knocking him out cold, right in the middle of the hallway. Right after dropping the guy, he bends down to make absolutely sure the stove's temp is still perfect. Catching a weird magical vibe from the blonde leader, the master wonders if there are other cultivators hiding out on Earth. The blonde boss smirks, giving the TMC props for his physical toughness after surviving his earlier hit. Blocking a lightning-fast kick with his arm, the guy figures out the opponent isn't actually a real spiritual cultivator. He realizes the enemy just farmed life energy after a long physical grind and admits he underestimated normal humans a bit. Digging through the original host's memories, he figures out the enemy is part of a fighter class known as martial artists. Even though they're weaker than spiritual masters, these fighters easily outclass any regular person. Noticing the guy's defensive stance, the blonde fighter mocks him for trying to protect that busted old cooking pot. Pulling a sneaky move, the attacker kicks right at the stove, forcing the master to body block it. Worried about ruining his alchemy run, he's annoyed he's this close to finishing and running on fumes. Taking advantage of the guy's open guard, the opponent lands a heavy blow straight to the MCE's chest. The impact sends the guy flying into the room's wall, kicking up a massive cloud of dust. A thick fog of dust and smoke covers the whole room, bringing a heavy silence to the place for a second. Stepping out of the wreckage with a smirk, the master pops the freshly made golden pill, calling it a major W. A massive wave of spiritual power explodes around him, leaving the blonde attacker completely shook by the light show. He decides to use the fighter as a test dummy for his new stats after hitting the second tier of condensation. Right then, the fighter starts sweating bullets, absolutely terrified by the overwhelming aura and realizing this kid feels like a completely different being. Walking up looking like a boss, Lu Donglai calmly asks if the opponent is ready to meet his maker. Staring down the threat, the attacker decides it's now or never and makes a move. The enemy throws a palm strike, while the guy notices that even back in his old universe, he hadn't seen this specific move. Totally unfazed, Lu Donglai shuts down the frontal attack looking incredibly bored, using just one precise motion. With a loud crack, the attacker drops to the floor screaming over his broken hand, while the master realizes just how insane his new power level is. Panicking, the attacker screams that this kind of power doesn't belong to a normal student and demands to know who he really is. Then, Lu Donglai brings his glowing hand right up to the enemy's face and tells him to shut his mouth for good. He drops a cold warning that nobody on Earth has the right to question him, making the enemy whimper in pure terror. Flexing golden flames in his hands, the master demands to know who sent him to take him out, threatening him with something way worse. Just to flex his power, He obliterates some nearby furniture with an energy beam and warns the guy he's next. Coughing hard and paralyzed with fear, the guy realizes he's not playing games against the Daozen MC Cow's overwhelming power. Embarrassed on the floor, he snitches that he was paid by Lin Nanhong, a guy from the powerful Lin family, and begs not to be finished off. The master figures the military family's payback arrived way earlier than he thought, but doesn't even look surprised. Swearing to hit back twice as hard later, the master glares at the terrified attacker shaking in his boots. Right then, the hostage tries to force a smile and asks if he can dip now that he spilled all the tea. Lu Donglai agrees to let him go with just one condition, making the enemy sweat knowing this wasn't going to be easy. Pointing at his completely trashed room and the knocked-out goons, he demands cash to cover the damages. The guy is absolutely shook that this insanely OP kid is only asking for money to let things slide. As soon as he asks if there's any problem, the enemy rushes to agree to everything without a second thought. Kicking his own crew to wake them up fast, the leader orders them to send all their cash to the young master. Next thing, a bank transfer notification pops up on the screen, proving the money dropped. Showing the receipt on his phone, the attacker nervously asks if they can bounce, and hears the kid tell them to get lost. The thugs scramble out the door in a panic, just wanting to get as far away from this monster as humanly possible. Hitting the street, a lackey asks if they're just going to quit the job, but the furious leader asks if he seriously wants to go back in there. The gang leader realizes that just knowing how to throw punches is useless against a ridiculously overpowered family. Back in the room, Lu Donglai admits that on Earth, money and clout are basically superpowers too. Looking at the empty bottles, he's a bit salty the medicine only got him to the second tier without fully locking it in. He stares at the last bit of the stuff in his hand, wondering if this tiny drop is really all that's left. Without hesitating, the guy downs the rest of the pills to speed run his spiritual recovery. Sitting in a meditative pose surrounded by golden flames, he focuses on locking in his power, so he doesn't lose his progress. With his power surging, the master tanks the massive physical strain of grinding cultivation. Out of nowhere, a crazy magical eye skill unlocks in his mind while he's training. Shook, the master realizes his body cleansing routine accidentally triggered a hidden bloodline in this body called the Jechet demonic Ayak. This legendary perk lets him see the true stats of everything and expose its original form. He turns on his new X-ray vision and scans the room, mind blown by the mystical cheat code he just scored. Looking at the junk in his rundown room, he tests the magic eye on an old wall phone, super hyped. The guy admits this insane skill is something he was dying to have even in his past life. But spamming the eye skill drains his mana crazy fast, making the glow fizzle out in seconds. Holding his tired head, he's bummed that his current level only lets him use the hack for a few seconds at a time. He starts doing the math on his massive upcoming bills for herbs, room repairs, and living expenses. Flopping on his back on the floor, the master groans that in the mortal realm, everything is pay to win. Right then, his phone dings, grabbing the attention of the guy chilling on the floor. Checking the screen, he sees a news story about some dude who got filthy rich after finding a rare antique vase. Seeing a golden opportunity, the guy decides to use his eye hack to hunt for vintage loot and make some fast cash. Wasting zero time, the master leaves the apartment, ready to hit the local antique market right now. Walking through the packed aisles of the traditional market, he hopes to find some hidden gems tucked away. Taking a deep breath, the guy tries to catch any leftover magical vibes coming from the old junk. Focusing his mind, the MC Farin turns on his eye hack and lets the magic glow take over his vision again. A sketchy vendor tries to hustle him into buying a decorated vase for 30,000 coins, swearing it's from some ancient empire. Using his vision hack, the master scans the vase's stats to see if it's actually legit. His skill instantly shows it's a totally worthless fake, made just to scam clueless tourists. After he calls out the obvious flaws, the annoyed vendor complains that the kid is just acting like a know-it-all. Looking around, he realizes almost everything here is trash and the market is full of scams and useless junk. Feeling the burnout, he admits he needs to be smarter about using his magic before his mana hits zero. Right then, the guy catches a super faint magical pulse coming from a booth a little further down. He spots a dark, clunky metal block with an emerald glow inside, proving he found exactly what he was looking for. The TMC stares at the ugly chunk of metal and celebrates finding leftover spiritual energy, which is super rare in today's world. While checking out the rock, he notices a buff dude in military gear walking by and sees he's built different. Watching the guy walk away, he figures Earth has way more martial arts fighters than he originally thought. The vendor shows off his stuff and mentions prices are negotiable, making the master cook up a plan to buy the block without looking suspicious. Strolling over casually, the guy asks for the prices of the stuff on display to start the haggling game. Thinking the kid is an easy mark, the vendor plans to ask for an insanely high price to make some quick cash. So, the seller slaps crazy price tags on a necklace and a fan, making the Cheman CF sarcastically complain about the ripoff. Holding his phone, he decides to use the fan as the perfect decoy to snag the iron block he actually wants. He offers to buy the fan if the vendor throws in the iron block for free, and the seller agrees instantly, thinking he just scored a massive W. After paying for the fan, the guy secretly hypes himself up for scoring enough power to craft a solid magic ite. Then, the master pops open the fan and realizes it's hiding another massive secret the vendor totally missed. He sees that the fan is actually a legit piece of history, and that he'll be able to flip it for crazy money later. Out of nowhere, people start screaming for a doctor after someone suddenly passes out on the street. A crowd gathers around an unconscious older man, while his grandson frantically screams for help. The panicked kid orders his military bodyguard to call the paramedics ASAP to get some backup. Watching the drama unfold, the master notices how the huge bodyguard takes orders from the kid and figures their family must have serious clout. Deciding not to get dragged into other people's mess, the guy keeps walking, focused on getting home to forge his item. A bounty of $100,000 is announced for anyone who can save the old man, making the master stop dead in his tracks. Doing the math on that payout, the MSEV realizes he finally has a solid reason to step in and save the guy. The relative totally loses it when the bodyguard says the ambulance is still 10 minutes away. Right then, the kid screams in a panic, asking if there's any doctor in the crowd who can do some first aid. But everyone backs away, saying they aren't pros and nobody wants to catch a lawsuit if things go wrong. Seeing his family member fading fast, the grandson panics and is crushed that nobody can save him from the ultimate game over. Suddenly, a bossy orders everyone to make way right now so that the M-Sage can step through. Hearing that, the nosy crowd steps back, intimidated by someone rolling up with so much confidence. Lu Donglai steps up looking majestic and confidently announces he's totally capable of saving the old guy. The family kid looks at him shook and asks if he's actually a certified doctor who knows what he's doing. But the master keeps it real, saying he doesn't have a medical degree, but promises he can easily fix the man. Right then, the bodyguard aggressively warns him not to make things worse if he can't handle the fallout. Ignoring the threat, the SAMC moves fast and grabs the arm of the soldier trying to block him. He drops a heavy warning that if they keep wasting time, the old man is literally gonna run out of time. The soldier is completely mind-blown, unable to process how this kid just locked him down with so much raw strength. Impressed by the kid's crazy stats, the guard backs off, and the master orders them to sit the old man up. Lu Donglai figures that even with his spiritual mana running low, he's got enough in the tank to clear the blocked veins. Channeling his magic, blue spiritual flames start wrapping around the master's hand. With a quick, precise swipe, he fires all that gathered energy to pull off his mystic trick. The SNMC lands a solid energy strike right on the man's back to bust open his blocked energy flow. Because of the heavy hit, the old man coughs up a huge amount of dark blood that was stuck in his chest. The kid freaks out seeing this and screams for his grandpa, thinking the guy just made things 10 times worse. Seeing red, the bodyguard lunges at the 1000 MC Azzy, demanding to know what he just did. But Lu Donglai just effortlessly steps the soldier's attack with perfect movement. At that moment, the soldier whiffs the punch and almost faceplants. Totally stunned by the kid's insane speed. Scrambling to regain his balance, the guy angrily barks that the DMMC isn't getting out of there. But the master moves at god-tier speed, catching the enemy off guard before he can even think about attacking again. Pointing a finger right at the guy's forehead, he drops a cold warning that his best bet is to stay frozen if he wants to keep breathing. The guard breaks into a cold sweat and freezes up, unable to comprehend how a normal kid has such glitchy speed. Suddenly, a shaky voice from behind orders the two of them to drop the beef right now. The old man wakes up coughing a bit, which makes his relative incredibly relieved to see him back online. Feeling way better, the older guy mentions that the crushing weight on his chest is totally gone. He orders the guard to stand down and admits the kid is the one who saved his life. The old man is super grateful and promises to reward the DMMC gun, but Lu Donglai just asks for the money they agreed on. Hearing that, the crowd whispers in shock that the guy is just straight up asking for the bag. The master asks if they're going to honor the payout, and the relative nods, still completely shook. Finding the kid's bluntness hilarious, the old man praises his hustle, and says he respects people who get straight to the point. Right after, he tells his guard Chen Yang to hand the cash over to the kid immediately. Handing over a thick stack of red bills, the soldier says thanks for the save, and the DMMC takes the cash, acting like it was no big deal. The bystanders stare with major envy at the huge stack of cash the kid just scored for a quick rescue. Holding the bills, he's amazed that there are still people walking around with this much physical cash. With the quest complete, the Taegum MC says peace out, mentioning they'll probably cross paths again someday. But the old man asks him to hold up a second before bouncing. He explains he's dealing with a heavy heart condition that all the top docs say is basically unfixable. Staring hopefully at the master, the older guy asks straight up if he has the skills to cure his illness. Lu Donglai stays quiet for a sec, thinking over the offer while keeping completely chill. He figures the guy's sickness is just old age kicking in, but knows his custom meds can easily fix it. With zero hesitation, the master confidently replies that he can 100% cure the guy. The relative and the guard are floored, remembering that not even the most high-tech hospitals could pull that off. The MCMC flexes that regular doctors being clueless doesn't nerf his skills, and asks what the payout is. Holding up one finger, the man offers 1 million a year, if the kid can guarantee him 20 years more on the clock. But the master holds up a finger too and corrects the price, saying the flat rate is 100,000 a year, adding up to 2 million. The crowd thinks asking for $2 million is an absolutely insane flex for a kid. Right then, the old man bursts out laughing, finding the whole negotiation super entertaining. He announces that 2 million is absolute pocket change, letting the gotcha MCs end, know this guy has serious boss money. The old man agrees instantly and asks for the kid's bank details to wire the funds tomorrow. But the CMMC rejects the wire, claiming he doesn't do digital money and prefers hard cash. He tells them to bring the full amount in physical bills to this exact spot in 48 hours so he can finish the treatment. The man agrees to the terms with no complaints and asks for the young master's name. Walking away unbothered, the MCF just drops that his family name is Lu before heading out. The grandson nervously asks if they can actually trust the guy, and the grandpa asks if he didn't feel his insane aura. The guard Chen Yang admits the kid's power is way higher than his own, and his healing skills are straight up hacks. Smiling, the man says he was in the military for a long time and his vibe check never fails. The old man realizes the kid is built different, while Lu Donglai walks down the street thinking today was a massive W. Holding his magic rock, he plans to clear all his debts with the 2 million he's about to collect. Suddenly, the master hears some sketchy footsteps trying to sneak up behind him. Locking in his upgraded senses, he notices exactly 3 guys tailing him closely. He guesses these stalkers are keeping a steady distance of about 30 meters from where he is. Completely unfazed, the guy tries to figure out who sent this squad to tail him through the city. He wonders if they're Lin Nanhong's goons, or if they were sent by the rich guy he just saved.